My sister ridiculed me in front of the whole family on Thanksgiving Day, so I stopped paying for her wedding. My name is Willa. I'm 36 years old, unmarried, childless, and the owner of a small but thriving event planning company in Indianapolis. Most people assume I'm living the dream, independent, career-oriented, well-off. That's the version of me my clients see. But within the walls of my family's home, I've always been the difficult one. Not because I caused trouble, but because I refused to fit into their narrow mold of what a good daughter should be. Last Thanksgiving, everything changed. We were gathered at my parents' house. It was the first big family event since my younger sister, Camille, had gotten engaged. The house was buzzing. Lights, flowers, music, and laughter echoed through the halls. On the outside, it looked like joy. Inside, I felt like a ghost in my own family story. Camille is 4 years younger than me. Beautiful. Charming. The kind of person who can ask you to give her your last dollar and somehow make you feel honored to do it. She's always been the favorite, not in some vague, invisible way, but in how my parents talk about her, praise her, protect her. Growing up, I was the kid who got straight A's, started a small business at 23, and paid my own rent by 24. Camille was the one who dropped out of school twice and always had a new plan my parents enthusiastically supported. Over the last decade, I've quietly paid for a lot more than anyone knows. Camille's second try at community college? That tuition was on my card. The down payment on mom's car after dad's surgery bills got too high? I handled that, too. There were always reasons. Emergencies. We'll pay you back eventually, my mom said once. She never brought it up again. But I justified it to myself. I could afford it. And they were family. The engagement dinner was held at my parents' home. Camille wanted something intimate but classy, and my mom called me weeks in advance with a list of needs, not requests. Real silverware rentals. Imported wine. Specialty appetizers. I knew what that meant. I covered it. No invoice, no contract. Just quiet Venmos and card charges. That night, I arrived early to help set up. No one said thank you. They barely noticed I was there. By 8 p.m., the house was full. Camille wore a satin dress, one I had paid for, and floated through the room like she was born to be adored. Her fiancé, Parker, seemed genuinely sweet, though a little overwhelmed. We sat down for dinner. Toasts began. Dad stood and talked about love and legacy. Then it was Camille's turn. She smiled sweetly, lifted her glass, and said, "To my beautiful family. To Mom and Dad, who have always been there for me. And to everyone who's supported us through this journey, except maybe Willa, who thinks money is love." Everyone laughed. Everyone. My mother covered her mouth, giggling. My father chuckled like she'd made a clever joke. A few cousins exchanged nervous glances. But no one said anything. And me? I froze. In that moment, years of quiet sacrifice boiled over. I heard the laughter like shattering glass in my chest. I raised my own glass, slowly. My hand trembled slightly, but my voice was steady. To Camille, I said. To the bride who won't have to worry about wedding expenses anymore, because the person you just mocked is officially done paying for them. The silence was immediate and deafening. You could hear the air shift. Camille blinked. My mom gasped. My dad's smile faded. I placed my glass down and stood up. "I'm leaving," I said. "And no, I don't want dessert." I walked out with my coat in my arms and my heart in my throat. The air outside hit me like cold water, and I kept walking until I reached my car. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my apartment and cried. Not soft, graceful tears, but years of swallowed hurt pouring out in waves. I cried for the girl who got ignored for having dreams that didn't involve a husband. For the woman who lent money to people who called her selfish behind her back. For every missed thank you, every subtle dig, every moment they made me feel like I was never enough unless I was giving something. And underneath the grief, something else took root. Resolve. I wasn't going to let them use me anymore. I wasn't going to keep pretending it was okay. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. I didn't answer. Not the messages from Camille, not the 3 missed calls from my mother, not the "we need to talk" from my dad. By noon, they started leaving voicemails. Camille's was full of fake sweetness. "It was a joke, Willa. Don't be so sensitive. Can we please move on?" My mother's tone was colder. "You embarrassed us. This is not how family behaves." That one almost made me laugh. Family. As if family meant sacrifice without acknowledgement. By that evening, I did something I'd never done before. I started going through my bank records, not for taxes, not for work, but to look at every time I'd helped my family. I pulled up my statements, searched names, old Venmo logs, credit card screenshots I'd saved over the years. I created a spreadsheet. There it was, in black and white. $1,200, Camille's second semester tuition. $3,500 down payment on mom's Subaru. $650 emergency vet bill when Camille's dog needed surgery. $4,000 dad's heart medication when insurance lapsed. $700 Camille's bridesmaid dress shopping trip, she was broke, of course. $9,800 the engagement dinner. Line by line, my generosity looked like a silent confession of how badly I'd wanted to be accepted. It hurt more than I expected. I saw clearly that this wasn't just about money. It was about the pattern. I was the fallback. The solution. The one they turned to in quiet panic and dismissed in public. I called Meg, my closest friend since college, the one who had witnessed my family dynamics from the outside for years. She listened as I walked her through everything. Then she said, "You need to protect yourself. They're not going to change, Willa. But you can." We spent the next few hours drafting a letter. Not a confrontation, but a statement. A boundary. That night, I emailed it to my parents and Camille. It read: Subject, moving forward. I want to be clear that I will no longer provide financial support for Camille's wedding or any future family expenses. I realize now that my giving has been expected without appreciation or respect. I have always been happy to help when I could, but the behavior displayed at the engagement dinner was humiliating and unacceptable. It made clear to me how little my support is valued. I need space and time to decide how, or if, I want to move forward in our relationship. Please respect that. Willa. The response was swift. Within hours, my mother called twice more, then sent a long, rambling message about how I was overreacting and twisting things. My dad followed up with a one-liner: "This isn't you. Call us." But it was me. For the first time in a long time, this was me, setting a line in the sand and refusing to step over it. Camille sent the final message that night. It simply said, "I hope ruining my wedding makes you feel better about your sad little life." I stared at the screen. And deleted it. For 3 days, I heard nothing. The silence was as loud as the noise before it. But something had shifted. I felt clearer. I stopped checking my phone compulsively. I started sleeping through the night. Then, something unexpected happened. My aunt, my mother's sister, called me. She rarely did. We were never particularly close. But her voice was soft this time, different. "I heard what happened," she said. "I just want you to know. I see you. I know you've been the one holding things up for years. And I think it's time you did something for yourself." Her words cracked something open. Not because I needed validation, but because I realized someone had noticed. All those years of quiet giving, and someone had seen. That weekend, I took a walk through a park I hadn't visited in years. I watched kids play, couples stroll, a woman my age reading under a tree. I sat on a bench and thought about everything I'd missed trying to earn the approval of people who never intended to give it. I went home, made tea, and opened a new document on my laptop. I called it Reclaiming My Life. I started writing down everything I wanted to do now that I wasn't supporting my family financially. Travel. Invest in my business. Buy better equipment. Build a savings cushion. Maybe even take a real vacation. Then I added another list, things I'd always wanted to say to them but hadn't. I didn't send that list. But it felt good just to write it. 1 week after I sent that email, the silence broke not with a call from my parents, but through whispers that reached me from all corners of my life. A mutual friend messaged me, "Hey, I don't mean to overstep, but your sister told people you had a breakdown? She said the stress from your business made you lash out at dinner." Another wrote, "Camille said you're jealous of her engagement and that's why you're acting out." It was happening. They were rewriting the narrative. I was no longer the daughter who had supported her family quietly for years. I was now the unstable sister who ruined the happiest time of Camille's life. It shouldn't have surprised me. But it still hurt. I didn't respond to anyone. Not the cousins who sent passive-aggressive texts. Not the friends who hesitated too long before offering support. I stayed quiet and watched as the people I had trusted chose to believe the version that required less questioning. May stayed close. She started coming over once a week with coffee and takeout. "You're not crazy," she told me. "You're just the first one to stop playing the game." I needed to hear it more than I admitted. Then one night, something shifted again. I was going through old files, trying to clean out my digital archives, when I found an email I'd completely forgotten about, sent to me by my grandmother, Claire, 4 years before she died. The subject line read, "Private." Inside was a brief note and an attachment. "Willa, I'm leaving a small investment account in your name. I wanted you to have it directly. It's not much, but it's something to build on. Don't let your parents know, it's yours." The attachment was a scanned letter from her financial advisor and confirmation of an account with $18,000 in it at the time. I blinked. That account had never been mentioned after her passing. At the time, my parents told me everything had been split fairly and that there wasn't much to go around. But I had never seen this document. Never touched that account. I opened my banking app. Searched the institution's name. The account was inactive, closed 2 years ago. I reached out to the bank directly. The answer came in a calm, apologetic voice. "Yes, that account was closed in 2021. The funds were transferred to a joint family account under your father's name." I hung up slowly. They had taken it. Without a word. Without asking. Money my grandmother left for me, specifically for me, gone. It wasn't about the amount. It was about the betrayal. The ease with which they had erased my name from something meant to be mine. For years, I had swallowed their small injustices, rationalized their lack of gratitude. But this was something else. I called Eleanor, the same lawyer who had helped May's partner navigate a messy estate claim. I told her everything. Sent her the email, the attachment, the confirmation from the bank. She listened carefully and said, "This is theft, Willa. Family or not. You have grounds to recover what's yours, and potentially more." I sat with that word, theft. It felt harsh. But it was the truth. Eleanor helped me draft a formal letter, a notice of financial misappropriation. It was firm but not aggressive. It requested reimbursement and acknowledgement within 30 days, or the matter would move to small claims court. We sent the letter via certified mail to both of my parents. Within 48 hours, my phone lit up again. This time, it was angry. My mother left a voicemail full of fury. "You are tearing this family apart." Over what? Some money you weren't even using? My dad texted, "This is how you treat the people who raised you?" Camille messaged me once, "I knew you'd make this about you." That one made me laugh, sharp and joyless. They weren't even denying it. They were just angry I dared to call it out. Eleanor's advice was simple: let the letter do the work. Don't respond emotionally. Let them talk to me. So I did. And for the first time in a long time, I felt protected. Not because someone was swooping in to save me, but because I had taken a step for myself that wasn't fueled by guilt or fear. I went on with my days. I took on 2 new clients. I went to therapy. I walked more. One night, I passed by a bakery that had opened recently and remembered I used to dream of opening one, before my event business took over. I stepped inside, bought a scone, and stayed for an hour sketching out ideas. Not a plan. Just a dream again. It felt like mine. 2 weeks after the letter went out, I received another message, but this time, from someone I hadn't expected. Parker. Camille's fiancé. He messaged me privately, simply saying, "I'm sorry for what happened. I didn't realize how much you were doing behind the scenes. Camille told me a version of things that didn't add up. Now I see more clearly. I just wanted to say I admire your strength. I hope you're okay." I stared at his message for a long time. I didn't reply. But I let his words sit with me like a small lantern in the dark. 3 days before the 30-day deadline in Eleanor's letter expired, I got a call from my Aunt Teresa, my father's sister. She had always been quiet in family matters, a background figure who showed up for holidays and never commented on the drama. But now her voice was firm, deliberate. "Your mom asked me to talk to you," she said. I sighed. "I'm not sure that's a good idea." She paused. "I'm not here to convince you to drop anything. I just want to hear your side." We met at a small cafe downtown. I brought copies of everything: Grandma Claire's email, the account notice, Eleanor's letter, a summary of financial contributions I had made over the last 10 years. I didn't need to rehearse my story. I knew it too well. When I finished, Teresa didn't speak for a moment. She looked out the window, then back at me. I always suspected something wasn't right with how things were divided after Claire passed. Your mom made a lot of calls during that time, quietly. I didn't realize they took something that was meant for you. I didn't respond. I wasn't angry at her. Just tired. They've called a family meeting, she added. This Sunday. At June's house. They said they want to clear the air. That sounded ominous. But I agreed to go on one condition: May would come with me. Sunday arrived cold and gray. June's house was tucked into a quiet cul-de-sac, the smell of burning leaves in the air. When we entered, the room was already arranged, chairs in a circle, coffee on the side table. Too organized. Too rehearsed. My parents sat side by side. Camille, arms crossed, eyes puffy. Aunt Teresa. Uncle Malcolm. Even two cousins I hadn't seen in months. They wanted an audience. May and I took our seats. I didn't speak first. My father did. This has gone too far, he began, his tone strained but controlled. We are not thieves. We are your family. I looked at him and waited. My mother continued, that account was part of the general estate. We used it when your father's business hit trouble. We were trying to keep the family afloat. Without telling me, I said. She blinked. We didn't think it would matter. It wasn't that much. I reached into my bag, pulled out the email from Claire, and laid it flat on the coffee table. She thought it mattered. She trusted you to honor that. The silence in the room was thick. Camille broke it. You always think you're better than the rest of us. With your business and your money and your independence. Maybe mom and dad weren't perfect, but they did what they had to do. I turned to her. No, Camille. They did what was easy, which was taking from me and expecting I'd never say anything. And I didn't. 4 years. I covered for you. Paid for you. Defended you. And I got laughed at in return. She opened her mouth to argue, but I wasn't finished. You all think this is about money. It's not. It's about respect. About seeing someone's worth beyond what they give you. And about what happens when someone finally decides to stop being your safety net. My father stood. You're breaking this family apart. No, I said quietly. You did that the moment you decided I didn't deserve to know the truth. May placed a supportive hand on my arm. The room stayed quiet. Aunt Teresa broke the tension. They owe you, Willa. And if they have any integrity left, they'll admit it. No one replied. But something changed in that silence. A shift not toward apology, but toward recognition that I wouldn't be silent anymore. I stood. I've said what I needed to say. I'll let the letter speak from now on. We left. The air outside was colder than when we came in, but I felt warm. Not triumphant, just grounded. 2 days later, a letter arrived from their lawyer. It confirmed the intent to repay the original account amount and requested no further legal action. There was no apology. But there was an agreement. Eleanor called it a win. It's not perfect, but it's something. You held them accountable. I didn't celebrate. Instead, I took a walk to the park, sat by the lake, and watched the ducks drift lazily across the water. I thought about Grandma Claire, how she used to tuck a 50 into my jacket pocket when I visited, saying, "You're the one who remembers everything. That matters." And it did. It still does. That week, I made a quiet decision. I unfollowed every family member on social media. I blocked Camille's number. I kept the letter in a drawer, along with the final check they sent, a symbolic return of what had been mine all along. But I didn't cash it right away. Not because I doubted the victory, but because I wanted time to absorb the reality of what I had done. Not just standing up for myself, but finally walking away from the belief that I had to earn my place in the family. 3 months have passed since the meeting at Aunt June's house. The check is still in my drawer. At first, I thought I was waiting for the right moment to cash it. Maybe I wanted a quiet symbolic ceremony, or perhaps I was just afraid. Not afraid of what would happen, but of what it meant that the chapter was officially closed. But that moment never came. Instead, something else happened. I began to breathe differently. My mornings changed. I stopped waking up anxious, checking my phone for messages I'd have to emotionally prepare myself to read. I started walking before sunrise, just me, the quiet city, and a world that felt bigger than my family's grip. I took 2 weeks off in January. Went to New Mexico. No emails. No texts. Just me in a rented cabin and a stack of books I'd been putting off for years. I brought a journal and filled it with thoughts I didn't know I'd buried, childhood memories, things I wish I had said, how I used to perform love in hopes of being seen. I wrote something on the second to last page that stayed with me. Just because someone built you doesn't mean they own you. That line sat like a cornerstone in my chest. By mid-February, I moved apartments. A fresh start. Lighter colors. Warmer light. No more family photos on the mantle, only the ones I chose, friends laughing on a summer hike, May hugging me on her porch, the bakery sketch I'd saved from a napkin in part 3 of my life. I started writing again. Not about them. Not yet. But about strength. Quiet kinds of strength. I wrote blog posts for my business site about boundary setting, about weddings where the brides chose peace over pressure, joy over performance. The posts took off. Messages poured in. This spoke to me. I canceled a venue I couldn't afford and felt so relieved. Thank you for saying what no one else does. One woman wrote, my sister always overshadowed me. Your story made me finally tell her no. I cried reading that one. Because maybe that's what this all was, more than reclaiming money or cutting toxic ties. It was about turning my pain into something useful. Not revenge. Not public spectacle. Just proof that it's okay to walk away, even from people you once called home. One afternoon in March, Parker messaged again. He and Camille had officially broken off their engagement. It wasn't dramatic, he said. Just a long unraveling that finally reached its end. He thanked me again for making him look closer. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Camille sent one last message too. It came from a new number. You won. I hope you're happy. I stared at it for a long time. Then deleted it without reading the rest. That was the win. I didn't need to prove I was right anymore. Not to her. Not to them. Not even to myself. In April, I hosted a small gathering at my place. Just a few close friends, some clients turned confidants, and May. We cooked together, opened wine, and played music too loud. For the first time, I looked around and saw a different kind of family, not one built by blood, but by choice. We toasted. May raised her glass and said, to Willa, who finally remembered she doesn't owe anyone anything. We laughed. But I felt my throat tighten. Because that was it, really. All those years, I had been trying to buy love, loyalty, safety. Trying to earn my way into the room. But the door had always been locked from the inside. And now I had built a new room wide open, no admission required. I never told my parents I forgave them. Maybe one day I will. Maybe not. Forgiveness isn't always about telling the other person. Sometimes it's just choosing not to carry their weight anymore. Last week, I finally took the check out of the drawer. I stood at the bank counter, paused, and looked at it one last time. Then I flipped it over, signed it, and handed it to the teller. That's from a long time ago, I said. She smiled. Still valid, though. I nodded. It was. And so was I. Epilogue. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. I didn't write this to make people angry or to shame my family. I wrote it because for years, I felt like I was the only one dealing with this kind of invisible grief, the kind where your family smiles in public and slices you open in private. I know what it's like to love people who hurt you. To hope they'll change if you just do more, give more, sacrifice more. And I know what it's like to finally say, no more, and feel like the villain. But you're not the villain. You're the one rewriting the story. And that takes courage most people never find. So if you're somewhere in the middle of your own chapter, unsure if walking away means losing love forever, let me tell you this. You are not alone. You are not wrong. And you are not the failure. You are the freedom. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.